Hello, and today I'll be looking at Ducktales issue 2 by Dynamite Comics. So far, the Ducktales series has gotten off to a pretty good start, so we'll see if they'll be able to keep it up the pace. It's written by Brandon Montclair, with art by Tommaso Ronda, and the main cover being done by Ivan Bigarella. So we pick up with Scrooge, Huey, Dewey, and Louie looking at a large map of Duckburg, where we also get the title for the issue, DuckTales, starring Uncle Scrooge with Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Four Corners of Your World, Part 2, The Phantom of the Scrooge-orama Dome. So Huey, Dewey, and Louie and Scrooge leave McDuck Manor as they head to the theater, and along the way we get to see various parts of Duckburg. And they arrive at the Scrooge-orama Dome, which is playing the movie Count Dracula versus Quackenstein, where at first the guy running the box office is rude until he realizes that it's Scrooge McDuck, his boss. Who's named Beans. And then he becomes overly friendly as he's trying not to lose his job, as Huey, Dewey, and Louie are excited to go see a movie. And while they're in the lobby, you can see on the wall there's posters for a movie called The Iceberg, which is obviously a Titanic reference, as well as also one of a sad clown, which I assume is a reference to The Day That the Clown Cried, which is an unreleased Jerry Lewis movie. And they get their food and they find their seats and they start watching the movie. A pretty cool layout of the four panels stretch across the entire both pages as you get like a widescreen view of the movie they're watching, which is a very nice touch. And the movie is so scary it makes them jump out of their seats. As Scrooge is talking to Beans and his associate Frank, he realizes that the change had fallen out of his pocket. As now we get the flashback story called Uncle Scrooge Dime After Dime, which is done in the old Carl Barks style. As we see Scrooge at a theater watching a play, until something about the lead actress seems familiar. And that's when they transform into Magic and Dispel and attack Scrooge. And then we get a myriad of references to various movies and literature. King Kong, The Wizard of Oz, The Three Musketeers, and others. Scrooge is then able to successfully trick Magica, which then snaps Scrooge out of his flashback. Huey, Dewey, and Louie count his change that he had dropped from earlier, and they discover that he's a dime short, which of course Scrooge, being a massive cheapskate and tightwad, goes on the warpath trying to track down Frank and Beans, and eventually they track down Frank and Beans to an old room, which is filled with a ton of references, from a Darth Vader-looking helmet to a Captain America shield, Mickey Mouse's hat from Fantasia, the rose in the glass case from Beauty and the Beast, posters for a parody of Jaws, Lord of the Rings, and The Terminator, and a statue of Pirate Stevens from Duck Talks, among some others. They eventually are able to make Frank and Beans confess during the movies when people get scared and the change would fall out of their pockets. They would quickly sweep up the change before anyone would notice. So they had amassed quite a large collection of people's money, and were planning on trying to earn enough money to get a partnership stake in the theater. Instead of having them thrown in jail, Scrooge decides it's better to let them continue running the theater, since it seems now that they learned their lesson. What they were doing was wrong. And I'd assume that either Scrooge would have them donate the movie memorabilia to museums, or he would auction it off, since it is a lot of very valuable stuff that would make him a lot of money. And so, pulling out the large map again, he tells the boys that it's useful to hang on to stuff because you never know when it may become valuable in the future. And that's how the comic ends. The next issue is going to be about the Beagle Boys. I'd say that this is a fun issue. If you're a big movie buff, you'll probably get the most out of this issue due to the myriad of a movie and pop culture references that are in this. And since most of them are subtle and in the background, it doesn't distract from the main story. The art is fantastic and looks great, as well as also some really clever, some really cool panel layouts. The story is easy to follow, and I'm really starting to like I really like the story, the flashback stories that are done in the classic Karl Barks style. I will say that the story is a lot more low stakes. So if you're more a fan of the adventuring stuff, you might not like it as much. And if you're not a big movie buff, you might not like it as much. But for what it is, I was entertained. My one main gripe, which carries over from the previous issue, which I feel is probably going to be a main thing going forward, is that Scrooge doesn't speak in his Scottish accent and doesn't say a lot of his Scroogeisms like bless me bagpipes or darn me argyles, which is very noticeable since that's a big part of his character is that he's from Scotland. A real unforced error on the comics part. The continuing cameos from Pirate Steven from Ducktales is starting to become a bit more suspicious that they keep having him pop up in their comics. I know that Ducktales is like the biggest name in Disney Afternoon related podcasts and website, but it still comes off as a conflict of interest. As well as also, even though Magica is shown on a number of the variant covers, she's only in a small part of the book in the flashback sequence. And most of the other variant covers have nothing to do with what's actually inside the book. With all that being said, even though it is a small scale story, I did enjoy my read and I would recommend it to others. Till next time, see ya.